Hello and welcome to my December 2018 edition of my interview series with women leaders. I am Emily Wishaw of Wishaw Wellness Live in Alignment, and I'm kind of chuckling because today I'm interviewing myself. So I decided to switch things up a bit, and so it's just me. So here I am. And if you're seeing this, most likely you are on my emailing list, and so you may have even replied back. I asked earlier this week of what would you like to know? What would you know about Rolfing? What would you like to know about me? Just what questions would you ask me if you were to interview me? So thank you to everyone who replied back, and that way I'm just not babbling on about stuff that maybe you don't care to know about me or Rolfing. So here we go. This will be fun. Just me and the camera, and then you all watching it whenever you watch it. So I was going to start with somebody asked, what particularly brought you to be passionate about assisting people with their healing? And that really brings me back kind of I think we all have our path and our stories of how we get to where we are. And as my path is continually unfolding and shifting, I am surprised how the direction maybe things have gone is not what I would have expected, even as a high schooler. And yet it's everything that I desire, if that makes sense. So I'm grateful for the life that's happening. So I always knew from a young age that I did want to help people and be in the healing profession in some capacity. My own mama, she's a nurse, and I knew I didn't want to be a nurse. I didn't want to deal with blood. I didn't want to deal with any of that business. So in high school, I loved chemistry and decided I would be a pharmacist. And long story somewhat shortened, I actually spent my first 2 years of college as a pre-pharmacy student, which you may or may not know. And I worked in a pharmacy, and I was super heavy into it. I took the PCAT twice. I took my OChem 1 and 2, mammalian physiology, all these high-level science classes, and actually had my in-person interview for the pharmacy school because I went to the University of Kansas, and they have a pharmacy school there. So you could do 2 years undergraduate and then go to 4 years of pharm school. So I thought that was my plan. Well, I realized I didn't want to be a pharmacist. I had an idolized view of the pharmacy I thought I could own. I thought I'd open up a sweet little pharmacy, have, our typical prescriptions, and then have a lot of herbs and herbals and educate clients and, maybe steer from some things and have more herbal availability. I realized the reality of a pharmacist doesn't necessarily look like that. And I withdrew my application. And it was the summer between my sophomore and junior year of college. And this answers kind of the same question, and kind of actually this is what somebody asked me, what drew me to my Rolfing practice. So this is relating there. So that summer, I worked as a personal care attendant for a girl. She was 17 at the time when I met her. And she had cerebral palsy, so she was confined to a motorized wheelchair. And a lot of activities of daily living she wasn't able to do by herself. She needed a lot of support, and that takes a lot of her independence away. And I was fortunate enough, I got to go to her physical therapy sessions with her. And I think, I was going to say the PT's name, but that doesn't matter. But it was great because I got to learn a lot of her stretches and exercises. And then when we were together, help her do them and help her through them and help, get some motivation of let's get some movement in. And it astounded me how much more movement and how much more independence she could get for just regular acts of daily living. The more she did her stretching, the more she did these mobility tests and the exercises. And that's what inspired me. My whole path I've been really inspired with, how do we use our physical body to help others reach their full potential? So that's kind of when I crafted it, that's what I meant to do. But I thought I was going to do it in the arena of physical therapy. So I have a bachelor's degree in exercise science. My last semester of college, I interned. You're getting my whole story. Yeah. So my last semester at college, I had a full-time internship with a PT, and she did myofascial release. And maybe you've heard the term myofascial. Now it is obviously very much in my vocabulary. Back then, as a senior in college, I was like, what are you saying, woman? I had no idea what this word was. I knew of fascia from an anatomy class, and fascia was literally just a vocab term. It was fascia, connective tissue. That was it. No discussion, nothing else. And this internship really opened my eyes to the fascia and the potential of it, and how it impacts us from a very physical, structural level, but then how that shifts into other areas of our life. And I was a lucky undergraduate intern. I got to do a lot of hands-on work with her. I was pretty much in every session, and she had hour-long sessions with her clients, assisting with her. So we were doing a lot of four-handed work. And I didn't realize how lucky I was in that role until later in life, when I realized the rest of my classmates were filing papers while I got to do hands-on. So long story short, that's what led me to Rolfing. I did realize that I didn't want to go, I was never interested necessarily in orthopedics or sports medicine. Really, I was inspired, have been interested in this idea of how do we help people reach their full potential through the human body. I knew of Rolfing from an uncle of mine, my Uncle John, and I knew it had changed his life and really supported him in dramatic ways. The first time I went to rolf.org, I was like, this is it. This is what I believe. This is what I want to do. I, of course, was like, okay, I can't be so naive. And I was reading the website right out of college. I did an AmeriCorps year. I realized, well, this is just more my story, but a lot of you might not know that. I volunteered full-time at a homeless shelter in southern Colorado. And from there, I then moved to Western Massachusetts. I lived for 6 months at a yoga retreat center. And that was when I had this space to, one, develop my own meditation and yoga practice, and then two, really experience different modalities and study a bit more to see, where did I want to start my base, which was Rolfing. So I moved to Boulder to go to the Rolf Institute. So there you go. That's what drew me to Rolfing. So somebody asked, someone on the list, she asked, she's never had Rolfing and wanted to know what is the purpose of it and what is the value. Oh, good question. So Rolfing, the word comes from Dr. Ida Rolf. She calls the work structural integration, right? So I'm a member of what's called the International Association of Structural Integrators. It is a mouthful. We're not, I don't know that we're known to be concise with our words in that world. Ida Rolf definitely wasn't. I know that I'm never a yes or no answer to my clients. I often give long-winded answers. So what is the purpose of it? So the idea and the goal, typically I work with clients through a long process of time. Most often my favorite way to work with people is called the Rolfing 10 series. So it's 10 sessions that work through your entire body. The ultimate goal is, think if you have a plumb line going down your body, like a vertical axis point. And how do we help the body orient and balance around that line? So the fascia, if you were to take everything else away, bones, blood, muscle, nerves, everything, the fascia, it would very much still look like you. You'd have this like three-dimensional spider web complex. That's what I'm working with. It's actually what gives muscles their shape. Always with the ultimate goal of how do we help the body find that line so that all of these larger extrinsic muscle groups can relax a little bit more. And you have that inherent strength and support of the bones, of the skeletal system. Those inner muscles are turned on. Ida Rolf's book, it's in my office. I'm just pausing to think of the title. It's something about Rolfing it's Rolfing, and it's reestablishing alignment and vitality to the physical body, something like that. But her, it's all about alignment and vitality. And it's so true. I know so many people who, my own clients, have taken through the 10 series. Some have, just like, oh, wow, yeah, I feel different. I feel better in my body. Or I have, this pain is gone, this hip pain, this low back pain. Others have really, really And not that that isn't profound, that is totally, completely profound. But sometimes people have really dramatic, just how they feel in the world and their body completely shifts. And my first time going through it, second time, I had that experience of where I was walking one night. It was halfway through the series, had just received session 5. And I was like, holy cow, walking feels so easy. And so I did this little body scan, checked in, and I realized I was perfectly lined up. And then I thought, well, I'm not efforting. And I then actually had an overwhelming amount of emotion, and tears came to my eye on my walk in my neighborhood by myself, because I realized my whole life that I had been pretending through my posture. So I had the good, quote unquote, good posture that most of us, especially if I share with people, Rolfing is awesome for improving posture. They might, put my shoulders back, sit up, which is not sustainable. And that's not natural alignment, right? That's incongruent. We're not taught how to sit in natural alignment. We're taught this really rigid, chest up, shoulders back, stomach sucked in, using all those large muscle groups to try and sit in this super rigid way. And for me, it was a posture that I had adopted at a very young age when I felt really insecure. It was a way if I stood up that way and sucked in my belly, I looked a little bit skinnier. And so that's kind of where it all started, from like age 8, super young. And then it was just a habituation, and it was unconscious way of me showing up as incongruent to the outside world from how I felt inside. Meaning, people asked, and not just in passing, but, family, friends would ask how I was doing, I'd be like, I'm good, everything's fine. Even if in reality, I was actually at that period of my life feeling really sad or lonely or disconnected. I felt that I've always been an achiever. In school, I was always at the top of my class. And so I had this weird belief of, if then emotionally, self-esteem wise, I didn't feel awesome, then that meant something was wrong with me. So I had to pretend. And my posture was this way of pretending. I didn't know I was going to share that story in this moment, but sharing with it because that's my own profound experience with Rolfing and this work of just coming back again and again and again and letting go of that external shell. Obviously, everyone has their own unique experience and take of the work. But I just believe we're in physical bodies for a reason. And how can we create more space? How can we create more ease? How can we actually inhabit this vehicle? Which brings me to, somebody asked, how is the art of feminine presence and natural extension and evolution of your Rolfing? Well, thank you for asking. I think that was Megan. So this idea of inhabiting our body, right? So as I got more and more in my Rolfing path through receiving the work, through going through the training, I got really curious about this idea of embodiment. And what does that mean? And how, what is it like to be embodied? And noticing that you can receive work and have awesome shifts and not be embodied or not have awareness of it. Or maybe you do, but then awareness is the most important thing if we want to create change. And I often share with clients when it's their first time working with me, one, I want them to feel 100% in control of the session. So I just speak that at the beginning of, I want them to speak up at any time for anything they need, right? Because it is their body. And while, yes, I'm putting input into their system, I don't believe I'm creating the change. I believe it's them and their nervous system. So while, say somebody's like totally checked out or whatever, my work, hands-on work, will have an effect on their body. It's going to have a such higher level if we can actually help them or be present, right? So say I'm working on an arm. What is it like to be in the inside of your arm? Oh, it's crazy. Being inside, feeling inside your hands is very different than thinking about your hands. So I knew, it's funny, these things that we know, but we don't really know. That makes sense. I just always knew that Rolfing wasn't it for me. It's the foundation. I always want to Rolf. I always will do my hands-on work. I love it. It's yeah. But I knew from there, somehow I knew it would expand, and this idea that I have of using our physical bodies to show up in ways in the world that are more authentic and aligned with how we feel on the inside. Huge piece of that, actually, creating more space, right? Actually creating space in the body for emotions to flow. But then with that, how does that shift then how we feel mentally about ourselves? How does that feel emotionally, spiritually? And so I was really inspired about this, more of a somatic mind-body coaching, helping people drop into their body kind of work. And I played around with some things for, a year or so. And I was working with a business coach, and we were rebranding my business. And after kind of the direction that I had, it came with the line of, your physical presence is the number one thing that attracts people to you and makes them listen to you. So really, really leading with this presence piece and kind of my experience. And she shared, well, do you know Rachel Jane? I didn't know Rachel Jane. But long story short, she's my teacher in the art of feminine presence. So I went to a free talk she did, which led me to going to a 3-day weekend where I knew there would be an offering, and I knew I wasn't going to sign up for it because I'd already invested a lot of money in my business. Well, what did I do? I signed up for it because it was the art of feminine presence work. I signed up for a year-long feminine leadership mastery program, so a little bit larger, but within that, I became a certified teacher of the work. Because it was what I was looking for, but I didn't even know. And it's such a beautiful compliment because it's obviously specifically for women at this point. And just anyone who identifies predominantly with the feminine as their predominant. That's who it's for. So it taught me, as much as I thought I was embodied, I actually, there were many areas where I wasn't claiming my body, where I wasn't inhabiting, where I was leaking my energy, where I was giving away my energy. And it really helps promote this idea of this line, right? One of the practices is the vertical core. So for us women, it's how do we be in our womb space, our heart space, and in the center of our head simultaneously. And I apologize if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I don't get that. And it's a practice. But for me, it was like, oh, there's that vertical line. There's that line of Rolfing. And the more, I personally play with finding those energetic body and physical body kind of where they merge, the more, again, this external shell relaxes. The more I feel stronger. I feel more confident. And it's not a projected, forceful, it just comes with ease. So I believe it's been an awesome compliment. And I also really appreciate having my Rolfing expertise to provide a different angle as well with the art of feminine presence with the women who I work with in that container to give suggestions of how they can be more comfortable in certain areas in their body. Wow. Okay. Somebody asked, how do clients feel after a lovely session with you? Well, I like that it clarified lovely session because maybe some aren't lovely. No. More often than not, some of the most common feedback, and this is particular to Rolfing, is that clients feel taller. They feel more energized. They're like, wow, my shoulders are back, but it's easy. Often they'll get this little lift through their sternum, which I'm like, okay, their body's finding the line. So they often feel taller, more energized, but still grounded and connected. People just, they feel better. I think often some of the feedback I receive are people are surprised how relaxing the session is. I don't know that they anticipate it to be so relaxing, but generally speaking, it's pretty relaxing. Yeah. And in terms of a question I receive a lot is, how is it different from massage? Typically speaking, it's more specific and purposeful as far as the approach. I don't use a lot of lotion or balm or oil. It's a lot of skin to skin, so I can really hook into the tissue and hang out, and I won't do the same thing side to side. And I'm always, the intention of my work is very different than a typical massage therapist. As far as even just thinking the lens, I look through the body, I'm always thinking about that line and how does the shoulder orient and X, Y, and Z. So I think I answered most of these. It's already at 20 minutes, so I think I'm gonna shorten up. I'm gonna leave with one last question. And a dear client asked me this question. And first of all, my disclaimer is I don't know that I always do. But I wanted to answer it to the best of my ability. So she asked, she would like to know how I keep my heart so very clean and balanced within this tumultuous life. So I can't say that I always do. I completely don't. And I think that's part of being human. But what I can say is, so for example, tonight, I'm just being honest. I had a date and I canceled my date so that I could get a massage and so that I have time for a bath, because it's been a super packed week. I'm leaving town at like 6 a.m. tomorrow. I still need to pack. And so I prioritized my self-care time, even with everything being busy. That is always a priority for me. You know, I got my yoga in. I don't always get a massage, but I had it scheduled, and that's what I would prefer to do rather than go on a date with somebody I didn't know. So, full disclosure. But that alone doesn't keep my heart clean and balanced. That's a piece of it, right? Is really, really, really working on filling up my own vessel first. Because we all give so much. And if I haven't filled this tank, it shifts how I show up for my clients. And I know I show up so much more effectively, more present, and have a lot more to give when I have been receiving myself. So exercise is a big piece of my life. Meditation is a big piece of my life. I sage myself a lot. If you don't know, sage is like a smudge stick, just clearing energy. So I have different rituals and practices that work for me. And the art of feminine presence really has given me certain tools and practices to really help me keep my energy for myself, as well as keep others out. And not keeping others out because it's negative or bad, although that's energy I don't want, but also because it's theirs. And I think when we merge energetically with others, which happens with life, we're in close vicinity, we're emotionally connected, X, Y, and Z reasons, but that's when things get murky and muddy. And yeah, so I hope that answers the question. I have different practices, and really I'm grateful to be in the work that I am, because I think it's opened me up to really taking care of myself and receiving a lot of care before I'm feeling bad, right? That's the case. Not always. Sometimes I do, that you do feel bad, or I wait too long to take care of myself, whatever. But usually I have things planned in advance when I'm still like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good, because then I receive work, or then I take a nap, or I go on that hike, or whatever it is, and I realize, holy cow, wow, I'm feeling so much better, and I wasn't even feeling bad. So it's just continually filling what fills me, as well as having rituals that work for me, and practices to help keep my energy to myself and not diffuse it out to others, and keep me grounded. So, my dears, this has been fun. If you made it this far, I love you. And no, honestly, thank you for listening and watching. And I hope this was interesting to you to learn about me a little bit, and a little bit about my perspective and of Rolfing and Art of Feminine Presence. And have a beautiful Christmas. Have a wonderful New Year. And if you're with family, if you're alone, whatever your situation, I really do hope that you can find some rest, some relaxation, and restorative time just for you and to be a little bit more internal and reflective. We're right at the winter solstice, to give yourself that space, because I think we really deserve to step back from it all. Whether we're feeling really grateful this year, or whether you're feeling lonely, whatever it is. So I hope you can find some peace where you are at. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and thanks for watching this December 2018 edition of my interview series with women leaders. So I guess that means I'm officially a woman leader. So Happy New Year, take care.